The family have been devastated by the murder of Nahid. Nahid was a remarkable and gentle person who was loved for her kind and caring nature. Publicly, Nahid was a quiet and dignified lady who chose to pursue her academic studies in order to work towards her PhD. And whilst in England, she made a decision that she would respect her heritage and traditions in the way that she dressed and conducted herself. However, when she was with her family, Nahid was a warm and loving person who enjoyed laughter and the company of her parents, siblings and extended family. The amount of people that attended Nahid's funeral was a tribute to how much she was cared for and respected. As a family, we have been upset by the media speculation about Nahid's death, in particular the publishing of a photograph claiming to be Nahid, which is not her. We wish to appeal directly to the person responsible for Nahid's death to come forward and hand themselves into the police in order to relieve our suffering and let justice take its course. It is vital that anyone with any information about Nahid's death, no matter how small, contacts the police to share that information. We respectfully ask that we are left alone to grieve in private as we continue to work with the police in England and Saudi Arabia to investigate this brutal crime.
Both Colchester murders have appeared on Crime Watch, but I've yet to see an actual reenactment of either of the scenarios with a real life person.
Okay, the use of a reconstruction will be considered in terms of any murder investigation. We're not yet at the stage where we wish to use a reconstruction either in relation to James's murder or to Nahid, but that will remain an active consideration for the senior investigating officers. Clearly the use of the media in any appeal points should only be in terms of to generate specific responses from the public around information that we seek, and not in terms of as some kind of drama or documentary in terms of for viewers to be able to watch. So there has to be a specific investigative purpose as to why we'd ask for those reconstructions to take place.
Tell the members of the public what are you alluding to? What specific investigative purpose? I understood that you dress somebody up or somebody looking similar would follow the same route. I've personally walked Nahid's walk through quite a busy housing estate. Surely there would be value in doing it at this point in time, as you don't appear to be getting anywhere on any other matters. It just might spark an interest.
We've had a really good response from the public, so we continue to make progress with a large number of people coming forward. Our focus at the moment is around finding a small number of people that we believe are on the Salary Brook trail that we're yet to identify. In terms of we understand and we know the route that Nahid was likely to have taken, and from the witness response that we've had so far, we're able to narrow that down. So actually showing the route that Nahid took would be of little value in terms of the investigation. The specifics are the appeals that we've made, particularly around the man wearing the Italian designer jacket that was on the Salary Brook trail between 10:20 and 10:40 AM, and he walked from the area of the underpass on the A133 back along the Salary Brook trail, we believe, towards the Greenstead estate. It's those sorts of appeals that are particularly important to us, to identify and speak to those people rather than just providing the information around the route that Nahid took. It's certainly not meant to be in terms of a drama piece in terms of for viewers to be able to watch. There has to be a specific investigative purpose. We understand within both investigations into Nahid's murder and James's, where the inquiry is going, the evidence that we seek and the information that we seek from the public, and we'll continue to focus our efforts very much around those avenues rather than providing information that actually maybe diverts the public's attention from where we need them to be focused.
Several weeks after the murder, you had a thorough forensic team going through the house with a fine-tooth comb. Are you able to reveal any clues, or were clues, anything found that she'd been stalked?
There's no clear motive apparent as to why anyone would bear a grudge against Nahid. Clearly, during any murder investigation, it's vital that we gather all of the possible evidence that could help to find the person or the people responsible for the murder. And Nahid's circumstances are no different. So the forensic examination of the property that she lived at with her brother would be the case in any murder investigation as well. We in terms of recover a large number of items from there, and we'll work through all of those to see whether or not it provides us with any evidence or any information that can help us to find the person or the people responsible. There was no significant progress from that, and as I say, the reason why the search of the house took place a number of days or even weeks after some of the other searches completed was that some of the searches were in open public spaces that were exposed to the elements. The simple fact is that the search of a house, once that house is secured and sealed, can actually be conducted a number of weeks or even months later without the evidence within there possibly deteriorating. So it's part of the investigative process and the use of the resources in the most appropriate way.
So when the forensic officers went in there, it was as is when she left on the last day of her life?
Sorry,
so it wasn't tampered with, the house was completely
no.
secure?
Essex Police first entered the house shortly after Nahid's body was found in terms to ensure that everybody else that lived at that house was safe. That was part of the initial response. From that point the house was secured, and then the forensic team were able to put together the forensic examination at the appropriate time.
Now, James Attfield's mother said on record the maniac's still out there. When we had that first press conference following James Attfield's frenzy killing, he's still out there, she is still out there, they are still out there, we're no closer. What do you say to the people of Colchester?
We've taken a very clear stance in terms of to the local community. I'm incredibly grateful to the community for their support during both murder investigations and the information they've given us. I'm also incredibly, I admire the local community for the commitment, the resolve, the determination they've shown collectively to go about their everyday life. I've spent a considerable amount of time in the last 6 weeks within the Colchester area, particularly within the parks and open spaces. The local community are going about their everyday business and are starting to use the parks and open spaces once again. That's really positive. What I would say to them is it remains a time for vigilance. Essex Police remain absolutely committed to ensuring the safety of the local community. We continue with additional patrols. We continue particularly with cycle and foot patrols in the parks and open spaces. I speak to those officers regularly, and they have both a personal and a professional commitment to ensuring the safety of the local community. We will do everything that we can, working with the local community to find the person or the people responsible for murdering James and Nahid and ensure they're brought to justice. Following Nahid's murder on Tuesday the 17th of June, a party from Essex Police travelled to Saudi Arabia, returning last week. During their visit to Saudi, they were able to meet with Nahid's family on several occasions and also with the police in Jeddah. It's really important that we're able to extend our condolences to Nahid's family personally and also demonstrate to them our commitment to finding the killer or killers responsible for her death. We've also been able to secure the support and assistance of the Saudi Arabian police, who are keen to help us with the investigations we move forward. So it's a really positive visit on a number of fronts for us. We've been able to verify in terms of the information. We know that Nahid was a visitor in our country when she was brutally murdered. That's a tragic set of circumstances for any family to come to terms with. We still have no clear motive. We remain open-minded as to why somebody may have attacked Nahid on the Salary Brook Trail on Tuesday the 17th of June, but we have been able to understand that Nahid was a committed and dedicated student who was working towards her aspiration to achieve a PhD, and that was very dear to her. It's vital to us. In any investigation where a foreign national is murdered within the UK, or indeed a British national is murdered abroad, we will always make contact and work with the police force in that country. It's imperative to us. That provides us with a good solid link back to Nahid's family. And as you say, it would be impractical for us to leave officers in Saudi Arabia indefinitely, but it was very important for me that my officers were able to see Nahid's family face to face and extend their condolences and our commitment to finding the person and people responsible. I think the family do appreciate it. We've heard today and throughout in terms of the family would like to be left in private in terms of to be able to grieve. We need to respect that, and they're also particularly sensitive about some of the speculation around Nahid. And that's really important that we understand in terms of the values and customs of Nahid's family, but also just their simple request for privateness in terms of a very difficult time for them. We will clearly continue to remain in contact with the family, and we have done since the party returned from Saudi last week. Technology clearly enables us to have regular contact with them, and now having linked in with the Saudi police as well, they can support the family on our behalf if necessary. We have no plans to return to Saudi at this time, but if there was a clear need for us to return to Saudi to support the family, then we'd consider that and do that if that was the appropriate thing to do. There's no clear indication as to evidence as to who would bear a grudge against Nahid, so we're no further forward in that sense. We remain open-minded as to the motive behind Nahid's murder, and there are a number of lines of inquiry that are being pursued. The information, though, that the team were able to gain whilst they were in Saudi reinforced in terms of Nahid's commitment and dedication as a student, in terms of her likeable nature, and the private way that she conducted herself. So it reinforced the information that we already had. But as I say, it's very important we hear that first hand from the family themselves. I'm not aware of any plans for the family to travel to the UK. The tribute that we've heard today, read on behalf of the family, very clearly indicates their request for privacy. It must be a terrible, terrible time for them. And I'd ask everybody to abide by that. I dispute the fact it's going nowhere in terms of the murder weapon clearly is a key piece of evidence, but we will work through a number of positive lines of inquiry. We'll look to reduce in terms of the lines of inquiry that can be pursued by eliminating those that we can prove could not be part of the murder situation that we're investigating, and by doing that we will narrow down our search, ultimately leading to the identification of the killer or killers. We do continue to make progress. As I say, they are both complex investigations that have clearly already taken a considerable amount of time. We will continue to work through all of those lines of inquiry, eliminating each as we can, and by doing that we'll narrow down in terms of our inquiries, ultimately I hope to finding the person or the people responsible for murdering both James and Nahid. They remain separate but parallel investigations. We clearly have to remain open-minded as to whether or not the person or the people responsible for Nahid could be linked to the murder of James Attfield. But there are, and I have to stress, there are significant differences between the deaths of James and Nahid. We continue with fully resourced teams working across both investigations, and we'll do all that we can to find the killer or killers responsible for both James's and Nahid's murder. We continue to pursue a number of active lines of inquiry in relation to Nahid's murder. We're still particularly keen though to speak to anybody that was on the Salary Brook trial on Tuesday the 17th of June between 10:15 and 10:45 am. I'm absolutely certain that there are people that were on that trial that have not yet come forward and speak to us. They're complex investigations, but as a force we're able to respond to them. We have fully staffed teams that are working continually to ensure that both investigations have progressed and all active lines of inquiry are pursued. And that will remain the position until we find the people or the person responsible. We have an absolute commitment we've made both to the family and to the community to do everything that we can to bring those responsible to justice. They remain separate but parallel investigations. I'm well aware that the community will draw some similarities between the two crimes. That's absolutely apparent to me. But I also have to stress there are significant differences. The benefit we have at the moment is the two senior investigating officers working parallel with each other, sharing information on a daily basis to make sure that any information within one inquiry that could be of use to the other inquiry is available and accessible to them without any kind of delay to speak to us. There are a number of appeals on the Essex Police website, and we're also making use of social media to make the local community aware. My request would be, please speak to your families, friends, colleagues. If anybody has any information, however insignificant you may think it is, please come forward and speak to us. You can contact the incident room directly on 01245 282 103, or you can speak to somebody anonymously through the independent charity Crime Stoppers. And it's important I remind everybody that Crime Stoppers have offered a £10,000 reward for information that leads to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for murdering Nahid.